Hello, everybody. My name is Scott Morganroth. The Motor City Mad Mouse Show is live here over at Hard Rock Stadium. I am pleased to be joined by Bob Wischusen, one of the most versatile broadcasters on the planet. And I really enjoy having you on the Motor City Mad Mouse Show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, first of all, let's talk about your broadcasting background and some of the biggest things that you've done that you've really enjoyed through the years.
Yeah, started here. My first job out of college was at WQAM in Miami.
Really?
So, yeah, I came down here out of college, then worked at WFAN and The Garden in New York, and then mostly ESPN since then. So, a lot of college sports, a lot of college basketball, college football, the Jets on the radio in New York for 25 years or so. And NHL the last 5 years has been a lot of fun, too.
So this is kind of like a homecoming for you, isn't it?
Every time I come back, we spent, a lot of nights in this stadium going to Marlins games when they used to play here. If the Marlins had a 10-game homestand, we were pretty much all of them.
Wow. Yeah, now we're really going back a few years
Oh, yeah.
if they played in this place.
Yeah, well, it was their inaugural season, was the first year I was down here. When the Panthers and Marlins came into existence, that's when WQAM became an all-sports radio station, and I joined them that year. It just happened to coincide with when I graduated college.
So did you ever think that South Florida would ever become a four major sports town, knowing that I was back here actually in the early 80s, and all we had, listen, get this, the Fort Lauderdale Strikers, the Miami Hurricanes, and the Dolphins. That's
Right.
all we had.
Yeah, it certainly makes sense, though, because of the population explosion down here since then. So, and all the Northerners that love all sports were moving here. So, very few places you would think were more logical for Major League sports to expand than Miami, Fort Lauderdale.
You cover a lot of interesting sports. Which ones are your favorite? I know guys like you. I watch your work on the NHL, and you do a heck of a job. You really do. So let's talk about your NHL experience.
Sure, I love it. When I was at Madison Square Garden, I was kind of a backup Rangers announcer.
Right.
So that was a way kind of into hockey. And then when ESPN became involved in the hockey world again, I went right to our bosses and I said, I'd like to be involved. And so it's fun because we get to follow it all the way into the playoffs, which is a blast. Hockey playoffs, there's few things like it.
When ESPN had hockey before, though, they had guys like Tom Mees who were great. It's just too bad he passed away early. And obviously the thought of Gary Thorne being on there was something that they talked about. How did it feel that they were able to bring you on there? You have John Butchergross on there as well, that you're in the mix. A guy like Gary Thorne, who obviously was a part of it earlier, that you're involved in it. I know that you have a lot of good commentators over there.
Yeah, it's an honor to sit in a chair that he used to be in. So, and you're right, like guys like Steve Levy and Bucci, they really did a great job in the Sports Center world, in our studio show world, of keeping hockey alive at ESPN for all of the years that we didn't have it on our air. So you could all you have to do is watch those guys and you hear the passion in their voices for the sport and how much they are invested in it.
Yeah, Barry Melrose. It's too bad that unfortunately Parkinson's is taking him off the air. And now you obviously have John Tortorella back in there. Give me your thoughts about Tortorella a little bit.
Oh, Torts is the best. He is as honest as they come. He's a great storyteller. He has a very unique way of kind of crawling inside the game and also just talking about a coach's mentality, coaching young players. Obviously, he's known as a tough coach to play for, but I've had nothing but great conversations with him.
Talk about some of the other sports that you're involved. What are some of the other big moments that you've had in the other sports that you enjoy doing?
Yeah, college football. Obviously, we get to travel the country every week and call these games. So doing the Jets on the radio hasn't been very successful lately for the last 15 years or so, but has some really memorable games in my first kind of dozen years or so when they would be in the playoffs. And then college basketball is great, too, because if it had a chance to go to places like Cameron and, Indiana, Kansas. So, I've been blessed.
Yeah, give some advice to some of the other aspiring broadcasters, because if there's anybody more versatile on the planet than you, I'd like to find out. And I have to tell you, I recently had a good interview with Kenny Albers, one of my favorite people, is a good friend of mine. But what advice do you have for younger broadcasters getting into the field about being versatile?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is internships in college, because that gives you an opportunity to meet decision makers and be inside the walls of a place and obviously meet people that can either hire you or maybe be the one to make a phone call on your behalf. And then don't turn anything down. It doesn't. If you have a headset on and you're calling something, it doesn't really matter the sport. You're getting better.
And one other thing I've also want to mention, then I want to ask you a thing about the Canes or two, because I know that's why you're covering the game. Do you feel that you have to be a good writer to be a good broadcaster?
It helps. I mean, obviously, writing well, especially if you're someone who is going to be writing your own scripts. I mean, a lot of people in studio, the thing in the teleprompter is probably something you wrote for yourself. So, yeah, writing skills can be very important.
And finally, let's talk about the Miami Hurricanes. They start off real quick. They obviously struggle as the year goes on, and now where they're at, I believe, 18th in the college playoffs so far. Talk about the mystery of the Miami Hurricanes with these strong starts, Mario Cristobal, and the future, because they have a great program. When Miami's doing well, college football is better off. But give me your overall synopsis of the Canes in general.
Yeah, they're a good team. Mario told us, and it is, I think, a perfect way to put it. He said, we have to stop bumping our head on good and become great. And they need these last 4 games to be dominant resume makers, because college football has a funny way of having the losses that you don't seem to think will happen to give you a pathway. Our metric says that if they run the table, they've got like a 1 in 4 chance of still making the playoff. It's very possible you could get some upsets that kind of give them a pathway, but they have to go out and dominate these last 4 games.
And what about their history per se? I mean, how do you not respect the Miami Hurricanes? And then I have to ask you Michigan Wolverines question because I'm a Michigan guy.
Okay. I haven't seen Michigan much, but I mean, I was down here when it was like the early mid-'90s.
Right.
I mean, that was peak Canes. It was Dennis Erickson. It was Butch. It was, and then obviously, even after I left, that 0-1 team might have been the greatest college football team in history. So, yeah, to get back to that would be amazing.
So, in other words, you're really a Miami Hurricane deep down inside, aren't you?
Yeah, I was here. I mean, it was one of the loudest places I think I've ever been was when they played Florida State. The Danny Cannell, Warwick Dunn Florida State team against the Canes team. The 95, I want to say, or 94, top of the old Orange Bowl. I thought the place was going to fall out underneath my feet.
Well, you led me real well with this. Sorry, but now you asked me. Now you give me a great follow-up. Thank you. Great minds think alike, by the way.
There you go.
GMT, the Orange Bowl. What was it like to cover games there?
Oh, it was a blast.
Was it?
It was a rickety, old mess of a place that everybody that was in it loved because it was their place and it was thunderously loud. And I mean, look at a 58-game winning streak they had there at some point? So if you're winning 58 in a row in your building, there's something special about your building.
Let me tell you, I go back to the 80s covering the Canes, and I had the luxury of working with Howard Schnellenberger. We'll get you out here on this note. Are there any events down the road that you aspire to go out, be able to do before Bob Wischusen's career is all said and done?
Sure. I mean, the bigger, the better. So would I love to call a Stanley Cup final or a Super Bowl, something like that someday? Yes, I would love to.
So would you say your biggest events are to this point?
So I've had some high-level Jet games. Last year calling, one of the quarterfinal round games of the college football playoff. We'll do another college football playoff game this year. I've called a lot of kind of those traditional flour and fruit bowl games, so those are always fun. Fiesta Bowl, Cotton Bowl, had that several times. Called a Rose Bowl on radio. So, yeah, I mean, I've had a few pop to mind.
All right. And now that you've brought that up, this just came. Do you think that there's too many bowl games that it's oversaturated?
People love them.
Today.
People watch them. If you look at the ratings, no matter how many more bowl games get put on TV, there's an audience that follows them.
Well, I want to thank Bob Wischusen before his big show later on for joining us on the Motor City Mad Mouse Show. Bob, I can't thank you very much for doing this ahead of your game. And just so you know, to follow Bob Wischusen, just follow this guy all over the map. If there's anybody that I've ever seen who's a quality broadcaster, and I've met a lot of them, you'll find him. And he'll be, by the way, mentioned in my next book, Lessons from the Microphone Part 2, because he was generous to give us a little bit of time today. So, Bob, from one broadcaster to another, thanks so much for being on the show. Much appreciated. God bless, and I'm going to keep watching you. If I wouldn't before, as much I do anyways, I'll even watch you a lot more. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.